Ishtar, Estare, Ostara, East. Yep, what's going on, party people? The place to be. I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city, Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? And of course, Kevin Benton's already giving me grief. All right. Yes, no CP time. I understand. I understand, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Happy Monday to everyone. Hope everybody's doing well. Uh, Gotta say what's up to the best chat in the business of the internet. We got most excellent Theophilus, KJ, J Soul, 1987. We got, of course, good Captain America, aka Kevin Benton in the check-in. We got Joshua. We got Bodega Lady Michelle Turner. Of course, we got the indelible, the incomparable Natu D2. We got Taylor Lott in the house. We got the real American Phil Fox in the building. Yeah. It's like start over. Where's the intro? I did the intro. What are you talking about? So yeah, man. So cat is funny. That's right. So yeah, man. For those who have yet already not already have done so, please like, share, and subscribe. Please share the link. Tell a friend to tell a friend that it's him again. And if you like how it goes down with the BK, please show your love via the PayPal link that's pinned on top of the chat. And if you'd like to be a monthly supporter of BK, you can become a patron where you get an assortment of goodies to enhance your personal Bible study. So yeah, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing here. So well, he said the intro music didn't come on? Really? That's weird. All right, so let's see what happens when I do the outro. But so we are here at this time of the year once again, where people would like to speak about, you know, Easter and its alleged pagan origins. You know, so well, that's funny. So it did on my laptop, but not my phone. Okay, that's interesting. So I've done a show on this, and many of us have done shows about this, and I always find it ironic for me because there was a time, and I should share this before with you guys. I was one of those people. I was part of the pagan police. I was one of those people that really defended against the holidays like Christmas and Easter, really believing that they were pagan holidays. To the point where I would butt heads with the ministers in my church. I was really into it. I was reading the two Babylons, Alexander Hislop, like I was all the way in. But I kept studying. I kept learning how to research better, more properly, and through my studies, I got convicted. I realized that what I was saying was wrong, so I had to pivot. So now here I am, showing how these holidays are not pagan. So what I'm going to do today is zero in more specifically up with one particular meme that if you haven't seen enough of already, you're going to see a whole lot during this whole week, right? Which would be this one, right? If you've seen this meme in your timeline, put a one in the chat or something similar to this. The Ishtar meme. If you've seen this meme, put a one in the chat right now. I want to see something. I can't tell you how many times, right, Andre? I just put a whole bunch of ones. Right, right. We see this constantly throughout, actually throughout the year, but even more so now that we approach Easter, right? So Of course, Nate had to be different. Nate had to be different. So you're yes, I'm a pagan apologist now. Absolutely. So let me read this meme. Right? It says this is Ishtar, pronounced Easter. Easter was originally the celebration of Ishtar, the Assyrian and Babylonian goddess of fertility and sex. Her symbols, like the egg and the bunny, were and still are fertility and sex symbols. Or did you actually think eggs and bunnies had anything to do with the resurrection? After Constantine decided to Christianize the empire, Easter was changed to represent Jesus. But at its roots, Easter, which is now pronounced is which is how you pronounce Ishtar, is all about celebrating fertility and sex. Well, let's see if this is true, right? Let's take a gander here. Now, this is from tale to the times forgotten.com. Excuse me. It says Ishtar's name is not in fact pronounced Easter. It is pronounced exactly how it's spelled. The name Ishtar is a transliteration of the name in ancient cuneiform. We don't know for certain exactly how this name was pronounced in ancient times, but as far as we can tell, it was pronounced in Akkadian fairly close to the same way Ishtar's name is pronounced in English. In any case, it would make very little sense for scholars to transliterate the name into Latin characters in a way that the name was not meant to be pronounced. Right? So, contrary to what the meme says, it's not pronounced Easter, it's Istar, right? This is from History for Atheists. This is an atheist website. Okay, so they have no horse in the race. Okay, and this website says Ishtar is pronounced Easter. No, it isn't. In modern English, it's pronounced the way it looks, with quote unquote ish as the first syllable. The original Akkadian name is which was probably pronounced Ishtar, or perhaps Ishtar, but not East-ter. Any similarity between the way the modern English form Ishtar looks and the modern English word Easter sounds is purely coincidental. And this is a fallacy that we see a lot of people uh, from the Hebrew Israelite community, from the conscious community, and even believers would make this mistake. And this fallacy is known as false friends. Right? In linguistics, false friends are words in different languages that look or sound similar but differ significantly in meaning. So you got these two words, Easter and Ishtar. They do have a ring, right? They do sound similar, but people make a correlation because it sounds similar that the definition must be similar as well. Even though the correlation only works in English, right? So remember, Ishtar is a transliteration from the Akkadian, right? So it's a false friend fallacy, right? So let's continue. But not only is the names not the same, right? In contrast, we can categorically show that Ishtar was associated with lions. She is also regularly pictured with a common symbol, an eight-pointed star. It is hard to argue against silence, but ultimately what is important here is that there is no evidence to the claim that rabbits and eggs were symbols of Ishtar. This is from badagent.com. The argument that rabbits and eggs were the symbols of Ishtar is one made without any evidence. I'm going to say it again. The argument that rabbits and eggs were the symbols of Ishtar is one made without any evidence. To date, there are no images of Ishtar with either symbol prominent. And here we have a relief of Ishtar, and you see the star, you see the lion. You know what you don't see? Bunny rabbits or eggs. So the name Easter and Ishtar are not connected linguistically, nor is she connected with eggs and bunny rabbits. It's just not true. So now we're going to look at Peter Gainsford. is a New Zealand-based scholar of early Greek literature and related aspects of ancient history. He received his PhD from Cambridge in 1999 and is the author of early Greek hexameter poetry and the Kui Hellenist blog. He spent 20 years in academia, working at various universities in the UK and New Zealand. Though no longer teaching, he continues to research and write about the ancient world. So now we're going to look at another word that's associated with Easter as well. Because people will say, okay, well, she's not, Easter doesn't come from Ishtar, but it comes from this other goddess named Estore, right? We have exactly one piece of testimony about Estore. It is a tract on time reckoning by Bede, a Christian monk writing in Northumbria, Northern England, ca. 730 Common Era. Bede discusses local month names and tells us an Easter month, which is now interpreted as the Paschal month, since it had the name from a goddess of theirs who was called Estore, and they celebrated her festival in that month. Now they give the Paschal season a nickname after her name, referring to the joys of the new solemnity with a word customary for the old observance. All right, this is from Bede. Some people generally seem to be under the impression that the Easter festival in the second century Mediterranean was derived from Estore, worshipped 600 years later in northern England. The absurdity of that should be obvious. Still, just to be explicit, Easter had existed for centuries prior to Bede, just not with that name. Easter was a part of the Christian calendar in Rome and Anatolia as early as Pope Anstius. Okay, the name Easter isn't just late; it's also a localized anomaly. The vast majority of languages use a name derived from the Hebrew Passover or Pesach via Greco-Latin Pesach, Romance, Paques, Pasqua, Pasti, Germanic Pasen, Pasque, Piske, Finnish Pasinian, Russian Pashka, Welsh Pazg, and so on. Most Slavic languages, except Russian, instead call it a variant of Great Day or Great Night. So even if there was such a goddess, because there is no proof of a goddess named Easter. We have one source, and that's from Bede, talking about that the name of that month was named after a goddess. That's all we got. That's all we have. We have no other evidence. We have no shrines, no steles, no archaeological findings. Zero, zilch, nada. But let's say it is a goddess, right? The name of that month is named after that goddess. Okay. The celebration of the resurrection of Jesus was happening centuries before Bede wrote this thing about this particular month. So how can Easter come from this goddess when they were celebrating centuries prior to Bede saying that this month is named after a goddess? And when has a month or a day stopped us from worshiping God? Because even today, our calendar is named after pagan gods, aren't they? So are the days of the week. Yet, we're still going to church. We're still going to Bible study. We're still going to prayer meetings. On Thursday and Friday, Freya got us to death. Saturn, Saturn's Day, right? So even if there was such a thing as an Easter goddess, they wasn't worshiping that. They were celebrating the resurrection of Christ centuries before B wrote about this goddess where there's no evidence of at all. So yeah, Dawood Ali, yeah, Easter is not pagan at all. That's the point I'm trying to make here. There is no goddess named Easter. There isn't any. This is speculation from Bede. All right, let's look at the Encyclopedia of Easter, Carnival and Lent. Most writers assert that it came from the name of an Anglo-Saxon goddess Astarte. They base their assertion on the writings of a scholarly monk known as Saint Bede. Bede proposed that the Anglo-Saxons, the ancestors of the English people, named the month of April after a pagan goddess. According to Bede, they called it Astar Month, after the goddess Estore, also spelled Astre. Bede explained that since the Easter festival fell in the month of the goddess, the people called the festival by the same name. So the monk, who's a believer in Jesus, by the way, he's not saying that that the celebration came from Esther. What he's saying is the celebration comes in the month of April, which in that land, the name of the month is called this. That's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. He's not saying that the celebration comes from Easter. He's saying the celebration that's been happening for centuries, well, in this land, the name of the month, April, well, over here they call it Esther Manaf. And that month is named after a pagan goddess named Astarte, which we have no evidence of. Right? So keep going. They point out that scholars have not found any other mention of Astarte in ancient or medieval documents. They believe that this lack of corroborating evidence may mean that Bede, who was raised and educated in a monastery, and therefore may not have been conversant with folklore and pagan religious beliefs, was presenting his readers with an educated guess rather than solid facts. They offer several other theories to explain the origin of the word Easter. One proposal suggests that the word Easter comes from Estor, an Old Norse word for spring. Another asserts that it comes from an Old Germanic and Anglo-Saxon word for east. Early Germanic languages offered many variants of the word for east, which appear to be related to the Anglo-Saxon term for east. These include Ostana, Osten, or Osten. Some researchers argue that the English term Easter has its roots in these old worlds. Again, speculation. Nobody knows. All right, and we're going to look at another scholar here. Stephen Winnick has been the writer and editor at the Library of Congress American Folk Life Center since 2005. He has an MA and a PhD degrees in folklore and folk life from the University of Pennsylvania and a BA in English from Columbia University. So we're going to talk about another goddess that is allegedly attached to Easter, right? Ostara. Ostara herself is a shadowy figure in Germanic folklore. Her story begins with Astarte, an Anglo-Saxon goddess who is not documented from pagan sources. Not documented from pagan sources at all. And turns up in only one early Christian source. And guess what that source is? The writings of the English churchman Bede. Bede may have been right that there was such a goddess, or he may have been spreading the received wisdom of his era, and scholars have debated this point for years. Jacob Grimm, the brilliant linguist and folklorist, is one of the many scholars who took Bede at his word. And in his 1835 book, the Deutsche Mythologie, he proposed that Astarte must have been a local version of a more widespread Germanic goddess whom he named Ostara. It is impossible to tell if Ostara as a goddess ever existed outside Grimm's proposal. So he trying to do a reconstruction of a deity that he got from Bede, but Bede is also speculating. So this is a speculation being built on a earlier speculation. All right. As for Astarte, there's no evidence of her worship except in Bede's book, and possibly in place names, which could, however, just mean east. There are certainly no ancient stories in which she transforms into a bird into a hare. Right. So, okay, Dawid. So, if you don't want to hear about the Bible, you probably shouldn't be in this chat. I'm just saying. Nobody told you you got to be here. So, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, sir. So, moving right along. For the goddess known as Stara, there's even less to go on. In fact, a goddess called Ostara isn't known from ancient sources at all. Her existence was proposed by Jacob Grimm in his Deutsche Mythologie. Grimm, best known as a folklorist and member of the famous Brothers Grimm, was also a linguist and mythologist. Working backwards from Bede's claim about Istare, Grimm observed that Easter appeared to be called Ostara in Old High German and conjectured, right, meaning he's guessing here, this Ostara, like the Anglo-Saxon Ostare, must in the heathen religion have denoted a higher being whose worship was so firmly rooted that the Christian teachers tolerated the name and applied it to one of their own grandest anniversaries. He's making it up, guys. He is freestyling this. But because he was known as this great folklorist, and he's famous, remember, this is the Brothers Grimm. We've heard of the Brothers Grimm, right? All these fairy tales that we grew up, reading when we was, little kids. So because he speculated, people took it as fact. But he was building his speculation on an earlier speculation from Bede. So the existence of Ostada's cult in Germany was a conjecture made by a folklorist. That's it. The origin of this goddess is conjecture from a particular academic based on a earlier conjecture from a monk, Bede. Okay. Ostada was invented in 1835 as a possible but unproven German version of Astarte. All right. So Dawi, we're not talking about David, bro. So moderators, if he continues to do this, can you take him out the chat, but give him a chance to correct himself here. So yeah, so they're talking about what's this? So the Bible David is the bunny. Okay, what's going on here? What is going on here, guys? Yeah, I don't think King David was ever considered a bunny. So, all right. So, but that's really all I want to share with you guys, right? So, Easter doesn't come from Ishtar, not linguistically, not culturally, not spiritually. There's no connection, you know. Can we satisfy Dawi Ali's request, please? Thank you very much. So, as I was saying, right, there is no connection between Ishtar and Easter at all. And Easter itself isn't a goddess. There's no proof that it's a goddess. And Estore or Astora, that comes from one of the brothers Grimm, that's conjecture. And it's an invention from him based on the speculation of Bede. None of these people, none of these people, there is no evidence. There's no evidence at all, guys. None. None. Now, am I saying that you have to celebrate Easter? No. Nobody's saying that. But for you to say that it comes from some pagan deity, that's just not true. History begs to differ. Centuries prior to there was a man named the Venerable Bede. Christians have been celebrating the resurrection of Christ for centuries prior to this guy. So you can't retrofit the speculation of a monk back a couple hundred years. Um, I'm not totally sure. As you could tell, there are um, various words that's been used. In fact, let me find that. Can I find that? Blah blah blah. Yeah. So, like for instance, Kevin, right? There's different Anglo-Saxon terms that they've been looking, right? Ostana, Osten. There's a lot. So I don't think anybody has, there isn't a general consensus of the pronunciation, right? So no, I have not covered Eusebius and the Pascal controversy. That sounds very interesting. If you got any info on that, please hit me in the back chat for that. Would love to read about that. So again, guys, right? Easter is not Ishtar. Easter is not a goddess. Ostara is not a goddess either. It's the name of a month. And even if it was a goddess, it's the name of the month that Passover, Pascha, Easter, right, was celebrated before it was even called Easter. It's only called Easter in that particular part of the world. The rest of the world, as you saw, there's different variants. Pasqua, Pascha, Pagan, all these different and those words are variants from the word Passover, Pesach. You know what I mean? So it's just not there, guys. You know, the celebration of the resurrection does not come from Ishtar. Once again, there's no linguistic connection. There's no religious connection to it. Easter itself, there's no proof that it's a goddess. Mr. Grimm decided to put his 2 cents in and created his own version of it called Ostara. Definitely no historical evidence of that goddess. So people were spitballing and freestyling. And because these individuals had some weight behind their names, people took it and ran with it. And that's why we're in the country that we're in today. But if you take time out to do some research, you can see where this is coming from. And again, you know, I'm a guy that has a high school diploma and a few college credits. So if I can figure it out, we all can figure it out. All right. So nobody should feel guilty this coming Easter Sunday, thinking that somehow they're worshiping some sort of fertility god. You're not. You're not. You're worshiping Jesus. And we're gonna talk more about that too on Wednesday, with this it's called defunding the pagan police. So we're gonna talk more about the philosophical argument that people try to make about these things being pagan. Because I don't know if people really think it through. In fact, if you think eggs and Christmas trees are pagan, then you might want to let go of Christianity. And I know that sounds crazy, right? Why is he saying that? Tune in Wednesday and I'll give you the answer. All right. So yeah, so I'll take a couple of questions from the audience before, we wrap things up. It was, short and sweet. That's very nice, Shotty. Definitely appreciate that. Bro, every year we're gonna have to do it until they stop. I know you got some amazing slides yourself, so we gotta keep doing it, man. Every time they pull out those memes, pull out these videos that we're making. Because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create resources for you guys. So when someone tries to throw these things in your timeline, you could just throw one of our videos in response. You know what I mean? So yeah. So any questions about what we discussed today before we wrap things up? Any questions? Nate says, so I shouldn't feel guilty for eating an entire giant chocolate bunny. I mean, you might feel selfish because you're not sharing the chocolate with your friends and family. But besides that, you know, and I don't know how your stomach's gonna feel if you eat a giant chocolate bunny. But no, there is, as long as you're not bowing down and worshiping the bunny, you're fine. because again, it's really about intent. We'll get into that as well on Wednesday. So, oh man, thank you so much, bro. Really appreciate it, man. Really appreciate it. What's the best way to cook a rabbit? I wouldn't know. I'm vegan, so I don't eat meat at all. And let me put that out there too, because some people, not you guys in the chat per se, but some of the Hebrews will say, "Oh, you just defend these pagan holidays because you want to eat pork." I haven't ate meat in 4 years, fam. So let me just put that on the record. So I don't eat meat. Not that it's a sin to eat meat. That's just me, my own personal choice. You know what I'm saying? But I just want to put that on the record because people would like to say, "Oh, pass the pork chop and this and that." You just want to follow Jesus so you can eat pork. I don't. I haven't touched meat in more than 4 years. Right? Yeah, or KFC. Yeah, they say I eat K. I'm like, nah, none of that, fam. None of that. No milk, no dairy. No meat, no dairy. Any more questions? Actual questions, not craziness that Nate be posting. But who started the bunny and egg part of Easter? Well, it's funny you should mention that. I mean, this wasn't the show today wasn't about that. But when you look at the history, it wasn't just Easter bunnies. There was the Easter goose. There was Easter fox. There was an assortment of animals in Europe that people would use to symbolize Easter. It wasn't just the bunny. In fact, when it came to America, it wasn't the bunny, it was the hare, Easter hare. Then it was the rabbit, right? So we'll put that out there. Okay, so Ezra Ben Levy. I don't. What does this have to do with Ishtar? I'm totally confused here. Can you expound upon that? It's scripture, word of God, amen. But I don't know why you posted that when we're talking about Ishtar. So if you could just let us know what's that about. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, no, actually, those things don't have pagan roots at all. Those symbols are relatively modern symbols, believe it or not, Chauncey. So I was thinking of doing a video on that, but I don't know if I'm gonna have time to do it before Easter. But the egg is a universal food, right? Because everybody eats eggs. It's an amazing, food that you could carry. It's very mobile, even though it's fragile, right? And throughout the world, various cultures have used eggs in various ceremonies. And the thing, and I'm going to talk about this on Wednesday, but since you brought it up, I find it interesting, Chauncey, that right when if we color eggs, somehow we can't do it because the quote unquote pagans do it. But what I find ironic is their gods didn't create anything, but we worship the God that actually made the egg, but we can't use it. These other people who worship fairy tales and fallen angels, they can use eggs. But us, those of us who follow Yahweh, the creator of all things, including eggs, somehow we can't use it. So I'm like, how do we, I feel like we're bowing down to the pagans. If there's any bowing happening, it's that. How is it they can use it, but we can't? And again, it's the intent. Why are we using it? Why are we using it? Because the egg itself is not intrinsically evil. It's an egg. What are you doing with the egg? What in that particular circumstance? That's the question we have to ask, right? So what's this? What's this here? Eusebius and the Paschal controversy dealt with a contention between the churches in Asia and the churches in Rome over the issue of Easter and Passover. Right. But I'm sure part of the controversy wasn't Ishtar. It wasn't, should we follow foreign gods, right? It had nothing to do with that, I'm pretty sure. Right? So no, we're not, we will not be talking about the cedar plate on Wednesday. No, we're not. So, and I totally agree with you. It's all about intent. Yeah, it's all about intent. And our good friends need to understand that, because as Christians, everything we do in the name of Christ, right? And that's the difference between us and the pagans. Why we do what we do. It's the why, right? Whether it's colored eggs, chocolate rabbits, trees, why? Why are we doing it? Right? The trees didn't do nothing to nobody. Trees are not intrinsically evil, right? So, but yeah, guys. So the next time you see someone post that Ishtar meme, please, post this video. It's relatively short. It's not even going to be an hour. 'Cause I'm about to wrap up right now. And, I hope this helps you guys. And again, you know, come Sunday, you can have a guilt-free worship experience knowing that you're not partaking in any pagan nonsense whatsoever. Right? So have fun. Color all the eggs you want. Nate, go eat your giant chocolate bunny. Feel free. Because really we know what that day means for us. Right? It's the resurrection of our Lord and Savior. That's the intent. That's what we're thinking about. That's what we're singing about. That's what we're praying and praising about. Not Ishtar. All right. So with that being said, BK Pod just signing off. Peace.